And Megan Fox here at PJ Media is explaining.
What's tip 4?
Well, don't trust women. I think you just touched on that with your Dancing with the Stars.
You can still love me.
I do. I love you all the time.
Our First Amendment rights are huge. They are very important to me. They should be important to everyone.
Don't be a public official if you don't want to be filmed, ma'am.
Megan Fox.
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. It's me, Megan Fox, medium smart journalist at PJ Media. We have a very important topic today. We are going to be talking about the medical kidnappings that are happening in Georgia. There's also a couple in Florida, but today specifically talking about the Hernandez case. Matt and Tucky Hernandez, those of you who've been here and have been following this with me, you remember we had Matt on the program when his baby was taken from him, and his baby and his toddler, when there were complications that no one seemed to understand, and they blamed it on abuse. They've been criminally charged. And I know that a bunch of you might not be familiar with this story. So before I bring on my guests from You Are the Power, and also the former foster care mom for the children in this situation who noticed a problem, I want to play for you a little bit of a video that Spike Cohen made from You Are the Power to give you a recap on this case and what happened. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe and share this stream. This is a really important topic. I know that you guys like to come here and we like to laugh and goof off, and we do mostly entertaining kind of stuff here, but sometimes the topic is really important. It's one of those things. It's one of these stories that I really would like more attention on. So if you could share the stream, I would really appreciate it. Okay, let's play this, and then I'm going to bring my guests on and we're going to get the updates in this case.
And their daughters. And meet the Hernandez family. That's Matt and Tucky and their daughters, Emma and Aria. Over the past few months, the Georgia state government has ripped the Hernandez family apart because Emma has a medical condition that the court simply refuses to acknowledge. This all started back in June when Matt and Tucky noticed some swelling in the lower legs of Emma, their infant daughter. They took Emma to a pediatrician who did some blood work and referred them to the ER. After an x-ray of her legs, the hospital's child abuse physician reported possible child abuse, despite the fact that the blood work results indicated a medical disorder as the reason for her injuries. The Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services, or DFACS, seized Emma and placed her with her aunt and uncle. 2 weeks later, a caseworker visited the Hernandez home and determined that their older daughter, Aria, is obviously happy and very well cared for. The next day, Tucky was arrested for battery and cruelty to children. Now, take a look at this and tell me that these are battered children. Because of these charges, Matt is not allowed to communicate with Tucky, and Tucky is not allowed to communicate with Matt or her daughters. Now, while the aunt and uncle had Emma, she developed a rash on her feet. The state took Emma from them, claiming that either they were abusing her or allowing Tucky to come and abuse her. They took her to a hospital and they put her on a feeding tube and gave her other medical treatments without any of the family's knowledge or consent. Emma and Aria were then placed with a foster parent. At their first visitation, Matt noted that both Emma and Aria had signs of neglect, including cold, mottled skin and discoloration on one of Emma's legs. The foster parent completely dismissed his concerns, and DFACS had no interest in hearing them either. After months of fighting just to get copies of Emma's medical records, including from when he first took her to the ER, DFACS finally gave them to him. 2 months later, at their first court hearing, medical experts testified in court that Emma has either neonatal rickets or osteogenesis imperfecta, both of which are medical disorders which cause the types of injuries that Emma has, and that there is no sign of physical abuse. The judge, Heather Dunn, refused to admit their testimony and chose instead to rely solely on the hospital's child abuse physician, who brought no paperwork and did not appear to understand these disorders. This physician's only evidence that this was abuse was a claim that these types of injuries are statistically caused by abuse. When he asked for the source of these statistics, he said that you could look it up on the internet. Let me say that again. The judge who is deciding whether or not to allow the Hernandez family to live together or not took the word of someone who said, look it up on the internet, over the word of two medical experts who said that her injuries appear to be the result of a serious medical condition. Now, at the same time that all of this is going on, Emma and Aria were transported to a visitation center to see Matt. But Matt's in court fighting to keep his family together, and he obviously can't be in two places at once. So the state either messed up their visitation schedule or they intentionally scheduled it so that he couldn't be there. Either way, Aria was devastated. With each visit, Matt sees Aria becoming more and more withdrawn and depressed, and he sees Emma becoming more and more injured and sickly. During one of their visits, when the caseworker came into the room, Aria got scared and ran behind Matt. The caseworker smiled and accused Aria of being racist. Aria is 3 years old, and I'm willing to bet that she's more concerned about why she can't go home to her parents than she is about the race of the stranger who's coming to take her away from them. Now, if all this wasn't bad enough, a couple weeks ago, Matt found out that his visitations are being cut in half and that Aria and Emma are being moved to a new foster family instead of back to their aunt and uncle. In fact, this case was brought to our attention by the Williams family, a foster family who had temporary custody of Emma and Aria when their first foster mother went on vacation. After seeing how much these girls wanted to go home, the Williams family began to investigate and discovered the horrific tragedy that the state is putting this family through in violation of their own policies. And despite the fact that the caseworker's report states that reunification is the goal of this case, the state of Georgia has refused to acknowledge Emma's medical condition, choosing instead to assume that she's being abused. They seem hell-bent on destroying this family, but we're going to reunite them. And here's how you can help. In this video's caption, I have listed the email addresses of all of the officials involved in this mess. I want you to email them and tell them to acknowledge Emma's condition, return Emma and Aria back to their parents, and drop all charges against them. Now, before you do that, listen, I am sure that you're as angry about this as I am. But you know how much government officials love to play victim. Oh, why are these people saying these mean things to me? I'm just doing my job. They would love nothing more than to make this about them. But it's not about them. And it's not about what we think of them. It's about Emma, Aria, Tucky, and Matt Hernandez. It's about ending this nightmare for them. Think of them when you're writing this email and be respectful to these officials. Don't give these people a chance to act like the victims here. Once you've finished emailing them, be sure to share this video far and wide and tag your friends and loved ones in the comments so as many people as possible can help us reunite the Hernandez family now. We can do this. So let's get to it.
Because I love you so much. I love you more. To move back.
Well, welcome back to the program, and we are here with Jennifer Williams, who is one of the foster caregivers of the children, and Ryan Ralston with You Are the Power. He's a volunteer director in Georgia. Thank you so much for being here. I would love to tell people that there are really positive updates in this case, but I know that it's still a struggle, isn't it? Where are we at, guys?
Well, thank you for having us, Megan. I really appreciate it. I haven't seen that video in so long. It's like super heartbreaking to rewatch it all. I feel like we've moved into positive directions, definitely, when the girls, they were able to move back with the aunt and the uncle. That happened in June. After DFACS had requested, again, for termination of parental rights. And the judge did deny that. They are on a reunification case plan. Once the girls moved in to the aunt and uncles, that was a huge blessing where everybody was really excited and happy and hopeful because, you know, the girls they're not going to be bounced around. They ended up being in 5 different foster homes. That's not counting respite homes. We don't even know how many respite homes there were. So while that was really, really amazing, the problems that came from that are hard for Matt and Taki because there's still this no contact bond condition between the aunt and the uncle and Matt and Taki Hernandez. And for people who wonder why, it's because of the state's witness list. So they have this criminal trial. When Matt and Taki both got indicted through the state of Georgia, through a grand jury, they're different conditions, right? So in the beginning, we know Taki and Matt could not speak to one another. That lasted for 10 months. Taki could not see her daughters. That lasted for almost 7 months. So another bond condition, Taki's not spoken to her sister or her brother-in-law in over a year. It was June of 2023 when that bond condition was put into place. Matt could still communicate. He was indicted through a grand jury and went to jail for a few nights in December. When he got out, that bond condition was put against him. So they cannot speak to each other. So at one point, Matt and Taki were able to go to doctor's appointments. They were having video calls with their daughters a couple times a week. Foster parents were calling. It was supervised. It's supervised. Somebody watches them have a Zoom call together. Now all of that's been taken away. So there's no more Zoom calls. There's no FaceTime calls because of the no contact. Matt and Taki get to see their daughters twice a week, and it's supervised. When they moved in with the aunt and uncle, something for some people to understand, DFACS, the Department of Children and Family Services, they had stated in court, if you move the girls with family, we want out. And their wording, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's very close to this. We no longer want to be a bank account for this family. We do not want to pay for resources for this family. The judge agreed to that. So DFACS is no longer part of this case plan. They're out, but the family still is under juvenile court instructions. On that day in June, when the girls were going to move with the aunt and the uncle, the judge demanded that they would pay for the court order visits that are supervised. They were pay for court order therapy for Aria, court ordered marriage counseling. This couple's been married 12 years. They've never had marriage counseling, but now the court has demanded it because they know, we've put you through all this trauma and this stress, but they're forced to pay it. They were also at that time told to pay child support to the aunt and uncle. The aunt and uncle didn't request this. This came from the court. So it is amazing that the girls are with the aunt and uncle, but they only see them twice a week for 2 hours.
And they have to pay for it.
And they pay. And I added everything up with the child support, therapy for Aria, the visits that are supervised, marriage counseling. It's $3,600 a month.
And they still have to pay for criminal lawyers for the criminal charges and somehow find a way to live and pay their rent and their grocery bill and everything else. This is crazy. Ryan, where are we at with this on the activism level? Have you gotten any response from any of the officials in Georgia that I know you've been doggedly trying to contact? I know this audience has tried to contact, has sent letters. There were letter writing campaigns that we took part in, trying to get the governor's attention, trying to get somebody's attention on this.
As of right now, Megan, every single elected official or appointed official that we've reached out to has turned a blind eye to our request. We've not heard anything from the governor's office. We've not heard anything from the lieutenant governor's office. We've never had an opportunity to speak with anyone at the DFACS offices in Atlanta. The director of DFACS here in Georgia, we've sent emails to her and her staff, and they've all gone unanswered. We've had members and we've had extended family reach out on behalf of Matt and Tucky to state senators, state representatives, and they've gone as far as reached out to U.S. senators and U.S. congressmen on behalf of the family, and no one's willing to listen to us, which is frightening because if you think about it, You have a factually innocent family who's not only being prosecuted, but being persecuted by the state. And no one on the state level, no representative, an elected official is even willing to talk to us about this. And I think that speaks volumes for their complacency in what's happening. I think they do understand and acknowledge that there is a problem privately, but they're not willing to publicly address that. And that's disconcerting for us.
I had great hope that Senator Ossoff would be helpful because, he talks a really big game about, fixing what's wrong at DCF. And he has these, meetings on the Senate Hill and they get together and they grill people on the television and they say, oh, this is terrible and children are going missing and what we have to reform this, blah, blah, blah. But I know that this audience has tried to reach out to Senator Ossoff. I know that Jennifer has tried to reach out to Senator Ossoff. I know people on the ground who have attempted to go to Senator Ossoff's office, his own constituents, to get appointments with him to talk about this case. He started responding, and then all of a sudden he cut off contact. And there's been no meetings, nothing from Senator Ossoff's office. Nothing from the governor. And Governor Kemp has been notified of this. Governor Kemp knows people are trying to get a hold of him for this. I know I've called his office several times.
Yeah.
I don't understand how the prosecutor, and this is the other thing. Here's my biggest question here. The juvenile court has decided that this family is going to be reunified.
Right.
And they've, for the most part, backed off of them. DCF is no longer involved. So how on earth does the criminal prosecutor go forward with charges of child abuse when DCF doesn't even want this case?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talk about, Megan, almost on a daily basis. Jennifer and I and the rest of the leadership team here in Georgia, we have these conversations. And one of the things that we always come back to, Megan, and is that it's the lack of due diligence that's led to this nightmare for Matt Tucky Hernandez. And it started with a child abuse pediatrician at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. It filtered down to the DFACS investigators, and from there it filtered down to local law enforcement. At no point over the past year has anyone other than You Are the Power truly investigated this from the ground level. So we've taken this approach from the perspective that we started off with the facts, right? Matt and Tucky are factually innocent. No crime was committed. And then we looked at it from the perspective of law enforcement. We looked at it from the perspective of a child abuse pediatrician, and we looked at it from the perspective of DFACS. And we were able to isolate instances in each one of those investigations. And I'm using that term loosely because I assure you, no one properly investigated or vetted this case. We found instant after instance where protocols, policies, and procedures were violated. And the biggest thing, Megan, that the team and I have been able to discover is that from the child abuse pediatrician on down to the local law enforcement official who investigated Matt and Tucky, they violated their cardinal rule of investigations. They have allowed theory and not fact to drive their investigation. They've allowed theory and not fact to help make their decisions. Whereas we based our investigation, we based our determination on fact and not theory. And so that's really and truly the catalyst for what has led to Matt and Tucky's nightmare over the past year, is that each and everybody hypothesized about what could possibly have happened rather than fully investigated and let fact drive that investigation and that decision making for the past year.
This is just, I'm beyond words on this. I'm so disheartened by everything that has gone on. How are they able to drag out this case for so long as far in the criminal courts? What happened to right to a speedy trial? I mean, have they even set a date? Have we had any movement in the criminal trial whatsoever? Because I am very sure that they will be found, that Matt will be found not guilty, and Tucky too. There's nothing there. There's no there. They have zero evidence. Not even the juvenile court could find any evidence that these parents did anything to this baby. So
yeah, listen, even in the criminal courtroom, we've been there so often recently because of translator issues, trying to get the bond conditions dropped. And it's almost funny because when the prosecutor is up there, she will literally, the judge will ask, like, do you have evidence and argument? And she'll literally say, only argument. It's almost comical. It's like they have no witnesses. They just like, oh, argument.
Still, I just don't know how this is still going on. What is the status of the criminal case? When is that going forward? Have they actually filed? I know they filed the charges, and there was an indictment.
Yeah.
But are they moving forward with it? Is there any forward movement on the docket?
Well, to be honest, it's not really the court in this case for this family. It's not really the court's doings. And Ryan can definitely chime in there. For this family specifically, and many of these families, the issue comes down to expert witnesses, right? The family has to or should get expert witnesses lined up to talk about medical conditions that could have caused this, right? So they have to do that. You have to get your attorneys to do this. Ryan knows I have a love-hate relationship with most attorneys, and there's a lot in this family. They have juvenile, they have criminal, some have gone. So when I talk about some of them in a negative light, hopefully I will know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to be rude to certainly their current team right now. Because they work hard, right? I know that. There are some who work slow, and there are some who work really, really, really slow. These parents are not able to get these expert witnesses. They can reach out if they want, but you're going to get the response, hey, I need to talk to your attorney. So then you're waiting on the attorneys to make contact and to read reports that this expert witness might have written. And I'll give an example. We want a pediatric radiologist, right? Even a really good one with a great heart is really expensive. So then it takes time for the family to come up with that money. And you're waiting on attorneys to read the report. We need to edit the report. Just finding them alone, Megan, is really hard. You can't just Google pediatric radiologist. You have to have somebody who is really smart, for one. You really want them to not be an average radiologist. You want someone who's willing to listen, someone who's willing to make an honest report. We're not looking for someone just to side with the parents. We want an honest report. What's going on with Emma? What happened? How could this have happened? So the expert witnesses is a big deal. This judge in particular, I feel like he's been fair. I think, Ryan, you would agree with that. He seems like he's fair. He actually at the bond condition was like, where are we at? We need to try this case.
Yeah.
It's time to get going.
Yes, that's my whole thing. It's like, all right, then you think these people did it? Well, then you prove it. Let's go. Let's get the jury in here.
The state is ready. And Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I blame the length of this on attorneys. That's my honest opinion, because I'm part of it every single day with Matt and Taki, helping look for them, right? We find them, we research them. Ryan, me, the other You Are the Power, Gretchen, Mandy, Jonathan. We are looking for these expert witnesses. We get their contact information. We can't do anything with that. The attorneys have to move forward with it.
One of the challenges, Megan, and I can just kind of piggyback on what Jennifer's saying, is they have a lot of doctors, a lot of medical professionals who don't want to challenge Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They do not want to go up against the child abuse pediatricians because they're fearful that Children's Healthcare of Atlanta will retaliate against them. They're fearful that their reputation and their name will be dragged through the mud for having the audacity to challenge a child abuse pediatrician at CHOA. One of the issues that we're also contending with, and Jenny touched on it briefly, is that, in order to get an expert witness, on average, it's $5,000 to $10,000. And you have a family who's already struggling financially. Jenny talked about how much the state is imposing on them per month, basically against their will. They're saying, hey, we want you to pay $3,600 for this amount of care for your children, when that number is just astronomical for someone who's working like Matt Tuckey, who are working 2 and 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet, trying to pay to make sure their children.
Yeah,
are
they're
taken care
working
of.
retail and restaurant work.
Yeah.
We are talking about people who are not making a substantial amount of money. These people are struggling, especially in this economy where a bag of groceries every single paper bag of groceries cost $100. And they had to live separately for a very long time because of those bond conditions. And so God knows how much extra, weight that put on them.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Ryan. Continue.
No, it is. And it's frustrating because the state, they are doing this with intent. They know what they are doing. They're having Matt and Tucky fight on two fronts, through the juvenile court and through the criminal court. And so that cost them tens of thousands of dollars that they simply don't have. They're going in debt in order to make sure that they pay for proper legal counsel. And these expert witnesses who are willing to come in and speak out against child abuse pediatricians, and specifically against CHOA in Georgia, they reside either outside the southeastern United States or outside the United States. And their testimony is costly. So Matt and Tucky are having to spend, and this is just a rough estimation, thus far they're probably upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 in legal fees.
Oh my God.
And so you compound that with court mandated, marriage therapy, can't speak with aunt and uncle, and you're having to pay for a transporter when you can eliminate that by simply allowing Matt and Tucky to have communication with the legal guardian or the custodian of their children right now. That eliminates several $1,000s or several $100s per week in fees. And so the state understands this. They know this. And Megan, we've gone to court. The You Are the Power team have been in court almost every single time that Matt and Tucky have been summoned to court. And one of the things most recently that we've seen, and Jenny can speak to this, is that at this point, we don't believe the state, at least on the criminal prosecutorial side, has any true strategy about how they wish to prosecute Matt and Tucky. And here's why I say that. Tucky was originally in their sights. Tucky was the one that the state said, okay, Tucky did the abusing. They put the girls in the care of Matt. Then they went back and said, no, Matt and Tucky collectively abused their daughter, so they arrest Matt. And now they're insinuating that it was solely Matt this entire time. And so if that's the case, why in the world aren't they just dismissing the charges against Tucky and reuniting her with her girls? And so the state's been all over the place over the past year. One of the things that we found troubling is that the lead law enforcement officer who investigated Matt and Tucky, who developed the probable cause to make the arrest on both of them, we found out after he turned the warrants in and his case investigation was complete, that he was likely demoted and removed out of investigative work for shoddy police work.
Oh, wonderful.
So that compounds the issue that the state has behind the scenes. Not only do they not know how to properly prosecute this case, their lead prosecutor, i.e. the lead law enforcement officer who investigated Matt and Tucky, is likely no longer in the state of Georgia, was demoted for doing shoddy police work, and he's listed on the indictment as the prosecutor. So
he has to be subpoenaed to be a witness, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
He will have to be there whether he's left the state or not.
Yep. And his supervisors need to be subpoenaed as well to attest for the fact that they've allowed an officer like that to continue to investigate such serious matters as allegations of child abuse. And so we do believe that the state's theory about what happened, and it is just that. It is a theory. It is not fact.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but I know you've paid attention to the Maya Kowalski trial in Florida. Yes. The big medical kidnapping, and the jury awarded them $160 million in damage. Sorry, $260 million in damages, but it's going through an appeal right now because J Hatch is refusing to pay even a dime. They're refusing to settle. They were ordered to settle by the judge to go to settlement conferences, and they walked in and said, "You're not getting shit," and walked out. Like that was their settlement conference. And they went and they appealed. Well, guess what has just happened? I don't know if you know this, but this is so troubling. The American Academy of Pediatrics, of pediatricians, and the Children's Hospital Association of America have now filed an amicus brief in that appeal demanding immunity for their mandated reporters.
Really?
and saying, oh, yeah. So the entire medical community is closing ranks around medical kidnappers. They didn't just medically kidnap, they didn't just hold her away from her family. They tortured her. They refused to believe her. They gave her inappropriate treatment for what she had. It was medical malpractice, torture, abuse, and they drove her mother to end her life.
Yeah.
This is and that the medical community would then close ranks around that kind of behavior is so scary. It is so scary.
I wish we could say that we're immune from that in Georgia. I wish I could say that, but we're not. We've seen that, and Jenny's seen it. I've seen it. Every member of the team in Georgia's seen it. Each and every time that we've been able to prove that the state was wrong, that DFACS was wrong, that child abuse pediatricians were wrong, that the law enforcement investigators were wrong, they dig their heels in deeper. And I can give you a prime example. Brady and Carrie Timms up in northwest Georgia, a case that we've briefly spoken about.
Yep.
When we called the bad actors out in that case, what did they do? They took it to the grand jury and added additional counts against Brady and Carrie. So they dig their heels in deeper when confronted with the truth. They are actually circling the wagons around these child abuse pediatricians, around DFACS, and law enforcement is propping up those bad actors. It's disgusting, and it's really scary to see that.
It is disgusting. This is just disgusting. I mean, what do Matt and Tucky need now? How do people help them? I know I've seen a couple of people in the chat who want to know, do they still have their Give, Send, Go or their GoFundMe? How do they help? Where can they donate for these legal fees?
They do have the Give, Send, Go. I can add that to the chat. And that is very helpful because money, unfortunately, in this situation,
Send it to my email, Jen, because you won't be able to put a link in the chat. Send it to my email and I'll make sure I get it up there. I know that the mods are putting the You Are the Power merch shop there. I know that helps the victims in these cases, that You Are the Power is helping as well. And we'll get that Give, Send, Go up, or GoFundMe, whatever it is, as soon as I get that. I don't know. What else has happened? I know there's been so much, Jen, that you've noticed, that you've been through, and maybe people don't understand. It's really interesting how you got involved in this. Jennifer was the respite caregiver for the girls when she noticed that the baby didn't look well, and that she looked sick, and that she looked like a baby Jennifer had seen before who had a rare disorder. And so she contacted DCF, and she said, this baby doesn't look like she's been abused. She looks like she has a disorder, like a bone disorder. And you were shut down, and you were shut down so hard by them that you are no longer a respite caregiver in that county. They do not want to place any kids with you because you asked too many questions. And you have become their number one supporter, and you have just thrown yourself into this case. You didn't have any plans of being an activist before, when you were just living your life and being a foster care parent. What has that been like for you? How has it really changed? I know it's changed your life.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I'm being fully clear and honest, it's changed literally every part of my life. I can't think of one thing that has stayed the same, because even my parents and my sister are completely enveloped the Hernandez family as part of their family. So I can't even go have dinner at my parents' house without talking about the Hernandez family, talking about the Tims, talking about the Sullivans. Like, it's changed everything. It's changed how I view the world. It's changed my parenting. I wouldn't say in a good way all around. It's very depressing. It's very sad. Every time something good happens, there are so many negative setbacks that it's just really hard. I have no desire to stop anytime soon until all these families are reunited and we've made changes, real changes in this state that hopefully go nationwide. Fostering was a big part of our life. We have 3 children that were adopted through foster care. My brothers were adopted through foster care. I mean, it was kind of like a ministry our family did. I don't mean that in like a high and mighty way. I mean, it was something we did as a family, and something that our church family helped us with, supported us. When you have that taken away, something that you feel you're called to do, it's very painful. I still have so much baby stuff in this house that I'm like not able to get rid of. It was hard and it was sad to lose that part of our life. I'm happy that we can continue this fight in a different way. So now I feel like we're helping reunify families in a way DFACS was obviously not letting us fulfill that part. It is hard, Megan. It's very sad. It's every day my kids, it's something about one of these families. And I'm not saying that to complain. It's just the fact. Ryan and I talk, every day. We have the other team members. It's just constant. It's like we're always trying to have meetings with anyone who will listen, any podcast, any interviews. I had never even listened to a podcast before this happened. If you had told me like, you're going to be going on the Megan Fox show, I'm like, who's that? The actress? I didn't listen. This was not my life, and I don't necessarily love it, but I'm not going to stop. I go to every court hearing. I've never missed one of Matt or Talkie's. My husband and I, Jonathan.
I know you're amazing. Both of you, you and your husband are amazing, and you've been such an incredible support for them. Just having somebody on the ground there is so important for victims. Speaking of, Cynthia Absug is in the chat today. Love you, Cindy. She said, no contact orders can keep families separated. Very sad. If you're charged with abuse and a no contact order is issued, you cannot see or talk to your family until the case is closed. 5 years for me. Cynthia was falsely accused and convicted. Of medical child abuse and alleged attempted kidnapping, which did not happen. And I was there in that courtroom with her. It was a tragedy. What happened to her, and they have separated her family. They have separated her indefinitely from her family. And the state in Colorado actually intentionally turned her older children against her. They lied to them. And to this day, I don't think that she's in contact with them. I think finally that order's been lifted after 5 years, but they're not talking anymore. So the state got what they wanted. These no contact orders are abusive, if you ask me.
They're horrible. And people need to understand how severe this is. I've seen so many people post on any of these families where they're like, oh, no one's taking my kids. Hell will freeze over before that happens. I wish people wouldn't be so dramatic. I understand as a parent, you think you can say that. You don't understand. They didn't knock on the door and politely say, like, can we have your kids? This happened in a hospital.
Well, they take them with police.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
By
there's
force.
nothing you can do by force.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
And one of the things, Megan, and I really want to speak to what Jennifer was talking about earlier, because I cannot say enough good things about Jennifer and the rest of the team here in Georgia. They are absolutely fantastic. These individuals give of themselves selfishly day in and day out on behalf of others. And so it is at times a very, very heavy burden to carry. It's not uncommon for us to get together and cry. It's not uncommon for us to, in our chats, in our phone conversations, in our Zoom calls, to strategize about how we can start helping others while we are really and truly not taking care of ourselves. There are times where we are emotionally drained and physically drained from the workload, and we have to stop sometimes and remind each other, Megan, that we must take care of ourselves. We have to take the time to take care of ourselves. I have never been in a courtroom in 22 years where I've had people surrounded with so much love and compassion and respect. And that starts with Jenny. That starts with her wonderful husband, her sister, Gretchen Brocard, who's a member of the leadership team here in Georgia now. I'll give you an example, Megan. We've been down in court in South Georgia with the Sullivan family and the Damani and Shelby Clark for over a month now, back and forth. It's about a 5 to 7 hour drive one way for us to get down there. And the volunteer members here at You're the Power Leadership team members make that drive and sit in court with those families. We take the families out to dinner. So, I mean, we're doing everything in our power to support holistically the needs of those families, whether it's getting them counseling, or there's fundraising. But one of the most important things, and really the common denominator, Megan, in all of this, is the love and the compassion that each one of these individuals has for others. I've seen it. I've been involved in this work for over a decade, but I've seen the transformation that it takes on the individual. And Jenny's right. Like, it can be all consuming. And it's just one of those things where and I know I've said this multiple times, but you know, the common denominator in all these individuals, and I'm going to exclude myself because I don't like talking about myself, but it is love. And it is what those individuals carry in their hearts. And Jenny is a prime example of that. You saw when we were watching the video before we came on the air, Jenny was upset. I was crying. Jenny was crying. It's because these families and these children we care so much about. They are now members of our families. We love those parents, and we love their children as if they were our own siblings and our own children. And so that's the way we approach our work. And it doesn't change. And it hasn't changed in over a year for our work with the Hernandez family.
How do you not, though, get to this? It's been over a year.
Yeah.
And this is an easy case. There's no evidence that there was any abuse.
Right.
There is only evidence that this child had a severe vitamin D deficiency and possibly some other related things causing brittle or weak bones and easily fractured. So how do you not lose your, your motivation to continue fighting for this when every single door is slammed in your face, Ryan? No one will talk to you. I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's challenging, Megan. And here's what the team and I talk about consistently. We have the truth on our side. We know that these families are factually innocent. And we're not going to stop until they are reunited. Like, we just can't. It's not in our DNA. We cannot stop. And we've had probably more doors slammed in our face, more emails ignored, more negative things hurled at us for trying to raise awareness about what's happening to these families. It's troubling that there's so many people in the government who don't want to listen to reason. And all we're saying is, hey, just take a look at the work that we've done. We have solved this case for you. Just take a look at our paperwork. Take a look at our documentation. Listen to these expert witnesses that you're calling fringe. Listen to these other opinions and draw the same conclusion that we have. And I could almost guarantee you that they would draw that same conclusion. And truth be told, Megan, there are times where I get worn down, where I'm tired, just physically, mentally exhausted. But then I look at someone like Jenny, who doesn't quit, who doesn't even know the definition of quit, who refuses to let a slam door in her face stop her. I've been in conferences, I've been in rooms where we've had elected officials, where we've had appointed officials in downtown Atlanta, and Jenny would literally go running up to each and every one of them with pamphlets in her hand saying, please listen to me. Please listen to what I have to say. They would turn their backs to her, but she would say, at least take this pamphlet and read this, please, please, please. And it's that type of person that inspires me to be better at the work that I do. I cannot say enough good things about Jenny and the rest of the team here in Georgia for the work that they do.
I don't think we hate our government enough. We don't have enough disdain for these people who are, their entire job is to listen to their constituents. Yes. And to hear that they're turning their backs on their constituents on the ground who have real concerns, who are trying to get some light on some injustice, makes me physically sick. I feel sick about that. And I'm disgusted by them. Squid Pro Quo has a very good comment here. She said, I would love to get involved, but I'm scared of retaliation if I ever need to take my daughter to Choa. She's local to you guys.
You don't take them to Choa to begin with. Like, you need to drive somewhere else. You just stay away from children's hospitals, guys. That's where the problem is at. And honestly, Choa is a good hospital. Choa itself, it does not mean they are corrupt although they should be listening to these problems. But I don't want to paint them with the whole facility is corrupt. It is these child abuse pediatricians, and you need to know your rights because these families didn't. You do not have to answer questions when you take your child to a hospital. If there's questions you don't want to answer, if you want your lawyer there, that's what you do. You have a lawyer present. You do not have to answer questions. They are not, they want you to think they're there to help.
Yeah, they're not. Look at what Sally Smith did. She posed as an
employee
of Johns Hopkins All Children's, and she wasn't. She was an agent of the state who came in demanding answers and interrogating the parents and not telling them who she really worked for. And that was part of that lawsuit. Having that nebulous connection between the child abuse pediatrician and DFACS, it's like they don't really work for the hospital. They really work for the government. Well, they need to put that, what they need to do when they walk in the room is say, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. You are now under investigation for child abuse. If they did that, at least it would be fair. At least you would know, but they don't. They fake it. They fake like they're there to help you. Then they gather information to use against you. They did it to Rachel Bruno in California, and that children's hospital, or I don't think it was a children's hospital, but that hospital lost a couple $1 million for what they did to her. The problem, though, with this case where it is now, there's no civil case until the criminal case is worked out. We could be talking years. I mean, they definitely have a good lawsuit on their hands if they want to go after him civilly. But they can't until they secure their freedom and they get out of this. So it's a terrible situation.
It is. And you hit the nail on the head, Megan, when you said that about state actors. We've talked about that intimately, the leadership team here in Georgia, specifically with Jenny and Jonathan and Mandy. We talked about that because we all sat in a trial in a rural county in Georgia for a family that we were supporting. Unfortunately, they were found guilty. And one of the biggest takeaways from that was at no point during that trial, which lasted a week, did the law enforcement officer who swore out the arrest warrants for this particular couple, at no point in time did that law enforcement officer step foot in the courthouse. Not only did the law enforcement officer never step foot in the courthouse, not one time did a law enforcement officer testify on behalf of the state. The state prosecuted this couple with a child abuse pediatrician from CHOA and a radiologist from CHOA, and that was it. So in our contention, Megan, is that these child abuse pediatricians and these medical personnel at these children's hospitals are state actors.
Yeah, they're cops.
Should be treated. They are absolutely
cops.
Deputized, and they need to be treated as such.
And that was the biggest argument against Sally Smith. Greg Anderson basically called her the state's prosecutor, because that's what she was.
Yes.
She was in the hospital looking for cases to prosecute. Those people need to be identified, and they need to tell parents what their rights are, because this is the same thing as having a police officer entrap you. It is a terrible situation. So what are the bills? I know that you guys are probably working to write some laws to change what is happening here, parents' rights bills, etc. What would solve this situation? I know in Texas, they have introduced new legislation there that has passed, where families are entitled to a second opinion at hospitals for their children. That is now in the law in Texas. They cannot call DCF just because parents want to get a second opinion. That law would have saved, I think, Emma, from this. What do you think?
Yeah, so You Are the Power is not a lobbyist group. So as the organization itself, we won't be going after making changes. But as Georgia citizens, we will be going after that. We have talked in great length here recently with what we think Will had a super great idea. He is a airplane mechanic for small aviation. And he had told us that there is already a government program out there through NASA that if he was working on a plane and somebody flew the plane and it crashed, if you sign this piece of paper as the mechanic, within 48 hours, you sign a piece of paper, you cannot lose your license. It's a government-funded program to save mechanics in the aviation world. It's like it puts a hold on everything. It puts a bubble around the mechanic. You can probably get sued if they were killed. I mean, there's things that can still happen to you, but you can't lose your license. So he was talking about it'd be great if you could have a hold. And here's how I picture it. Matt and Taki take their baby to the hospital. Someone claims within 2 hours, right? We know DFACS law enforcement were already there. You've hurt your child. You can't take them home. That's how it started. Within 2 hours, you guys. We all know no investigation was done. Nothing with medical records was done within 2 hours. They knew what they were going to do the second that couple walked into that hospital. If there was some kind of hold, if there was some kind of protection bubble that could stop anybody from removing a child, that could, some kind of window where a real investigation is done, but children are, in my opinion, children not being removed. Now, there's the option of putting them with fictive kin or a relative. That can still be very traumatizing, though, because Emma was a breastfeeding baby.
Yeah.
She was taken from her mother.
Forcibly weaned.
Yes.
At 3 months old. Sick.
Yes. Which is just disgusting because she didn't take bottles well at all. And we learned later, right, that Emma was put on a feeding tube in CHOA a month later where no one even told the parents. She was put on a feeding tube. Why? Because she wasn't gaining weight. Why? Because she wasn't eating, because she was a breastfeeding baby. So,
and babies, by the way, get depressed from being removed from their parents. It is considered a trauma, and it can cause brain development to stall.
Yes, absolutely.
It
that is
can cause
true.
actual brain damage. There are studies, which is why the government should be very careful before removing infants from families, because it will cause them brain damage. And it's absolutely sick that they just don't care. They could have held her in the hospital. They could have just kept her there in the hospital and allowed the family to get and had them be there with her, because they're being supervised. They're in a freaking hospital.
Right.
They're on camera surveillance. They could have allowed them to get their specialist to come do tests and have it worked out that way. I think there should be like an oversight board for these things where
Megan,
there are citizens on the panel, not just doctors. Yes. I mean, moms and dads, including doctors and professionals, lawyers, people who are in the community who can take a look at a case like this and go, we're not sure. Not just one child abuse doctor or two child abuse doctors who are working for the same facility.
Yes, they all look at my paper. What do you think? Oh yeah, that's abuse. I mean, that's how they do it.
Right.
There's 5 caps at CHOA. 4 or 5, and they all just sign off on each other's stuff. So when you go to court, you can say, well, Your Honor, 4 doctors, child abuse specialists have all said this was abuse. You are right. We need some kind of hold where if they are abusive people need to understand, yes, there are manipulators. There are people who can hide that. We all know that. There's also very telltale signs if someone is unsafe for their children, right? Even if it's not on purpose, right? There's a lot of low income, low educated people that love their children but don't know how to parent. So even if you have one of those situations, if you did a real investigation between police and a DFACS investigator, a state investigator, it is not that hard to talk to neighbors, talk to them. Are the parents employed? Do they always come to job? How long have they been working there? Do they have neighbors? Can people talk about them? There's so many things you could do to weed out what kind of family is this? Looking at their home. Do you see a lot of drug paraphernalia? Do you see a problem? Is there past violence? All of these things can give you a better picture of who the parents are.
What we're talking about is what Dr. Newberger said was why he didn't want anything to do with child abuse pediatrics as it exists, because that was his contention was that it should be a complete forensic background. It should be forensic pediatrics, which is not just focused on child abuse, but on sociology and history of the family and family dynamic and all of these comprehensive different areas. And you would have to be very well educated to understand all those dynamics. But nobody wanted that. They wanted to go to an 8-hour course, be certified in some specialty where they could go on and get paid. That's it. And so they have become what he said they would become, a thumbs up or thumbs down on whether this is abuse or not, without having any actual specialty knowledge in anything like family dynamics and anything like domestic violence and anything like actual family, how families work, etc. And that's where
think about it. If these were good people, because I know some people struggle. Like, there can't be doctors that don't care. Some DFACS workers, CPS workers have to care. If they cared at all, one of these people that were involved in this that kept passing it off would have stepped up and would have said something isn't right. The fact that so many pass this off as abuse without looking further is proof enough to me. They do not care. This is a money-making scheme for them. And for people who wonder, they have asked, what's in it for them? So most of these caps, if not all of them, they are contracted with the state. Some of them are not even employees of the hospital, like you mentioned.
They know they work for the state.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, they have privileges here, but they're not an employee here. So they are contracted with the state. Gretchen is one of our members here in Georgia. She and I and Ryan were just chatting this morning that there's no oversight. If you say, well, what's the real problem here? I'm telling you, the problem is child abuse pediatricians get to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, to whomever they want. DFACS follow suit. There is no oversight. There's no number you can call, you guys, to say, hey, I want to put in a complaint.
Yeah, you can't. We've tried. They won't take your call. No. They don't answer. They don't respond, and they hide behind confidentiality for the children.
Oh, yes. It's always, we can't talk about the case. That's the big thing. You can't talk about the case.
You can't, not till they're dead. Not till they kill the kid in their care. And then the case gets, finally, the media gets a hold of it. And then maybe somebody goes to jail. I mean, it is, that happened in Illinois recently, which was groundbreaking because the child, AJ Frund, who was left in his abusive household 19 times, DCF came. And 19 times they left him there until his parents tortured and murdered him. And then you get the case. You know, the media have been trying to get the case filed for a while, but you don't get it until there's a tragedy that they cause. And it's unbelievable.
You hear two things. We can't talk about cases, right? That's what all CPS will say, even government officials. The second one being minor children. The second one is have to work itself out in court.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing we can do. We can work itself. And I'm so frustrated with that answer because they don't belong in the court system. That's the problem. This never should have gone.
This never should have been there.
Yeah,
right.
These aren't crimes. No
There's
crime
no
occurred.
evidence.
Yeah, there's really no evidence of it. And one of the things, Megan, that we're seeing time and time again is if DFACS and child abuse pediatricians and law enforcement really and truly cared about these children, if that was at their driving force behind these investigations, how come no one ever follows up and checks on the children? How come while the children are in state's care, when the parents raise concerns about these medical issues that are not being addressed, why are they ignored? Why when these children
when Emma was in a foster care, when she was in her foster child care, when she was being held in foster, she was in child care and she had a swollen leg.
Yeah.
And the child care worker reported it to the DFACS person, and the DFACS person didn't do shit.
Right.
So,
exactly.
It's like, wait a minute. Aren't you going to accuse the child care person of the abuse? Because that was the same thing that was happening at the aunt and uncle's house, and they took her away from them. But if it happens in DCF care, they ignore it completely. Correct. Cynthia Absug's son reported some injuries while he was in DFACS care. Did they investigate it? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, not at all. They don't care. Once they have the child, any amount of abuse can happen to that child, including being sex trafficked, including being gone missing, attacked in their office. It doesn't matter. Any amount of abuse can happen, and they don't take the child away from themselves.
No. 4% of all the children in state's care in Georgia are re-abused. So if there's allegations of abuse, DFACS takes the children. While they're in state's care, 4% of those children are abused while in state's care.
I bet it's higher than that. That doesn't even, I mean, it sounds to me like we have a bunch of people who are either not interested in doing their jobs or phoning it in or are malicious. I can't figure it out. I did pin to the top of the chat, you guys, the Give, Send, Go for the legal fees for the Hernandez family. It's the Bring Emma and Aria Home Give, Send, Go. They have a goal of $90,000. They have raised $17,759 so far, and they truly need this to keep going. Just to keep surviving. I hear that they're going to have to find a new place to live. Has that been sorted out yet? Because their rent is increasing by 40% in October. I mean, what in the world? So not only are they having to pay $3,000 a month in child support and other charges to the state, the same state that is abusing them, that is abusing their rights, that isn't giving them due process, they have to now increase their rent by 40%.
Well, this is to tell your viewers what an awesome father Matt is. What a thought. He's so thoughtful and caring to his daughters that when this first came up, he told Jonathan and I on the phone one night, I can't move. Aria needs to be able to come back home. He's terrified of when they do come home, it's a brand new home, and he thinks that that's going to traumatize her. So in his mind, he knows they won't live there forever, but he would like his daughters to go home, to be able to see their home again, and then as a family, move on. I think his landlord has held off going up in rent since this began. Matt has no ill will towards the landlord, never said anything negative. He said he kind of expected this. It just took a long time. I think the landlord is understanding to the situation. Matt wouldn't say a single negative thing. He wouldn't.
I mean, and everything's going up. We all know prices, everything's going up. And I'm sure that the landlord has costs that are increasing too. But the point is, they are struggling. They are struggling to pay the state, and now they're going to be paying increased rent. And he's right. I'm sure that her coming home to a new house would be traumatizing when she gets to come home. So, I mean, here he is, and they need more help. They need more help. And they can't leave this, Tennille, they cannot leave the state because they're under criminal indictment. They can't go anywhere. Their children,
they don't have their kids. They can't leave without their children. I mean, they've got to, that's the thing. A lot of people, they have quick answers on You Are the Power comments, just podcasts where people are like, well, I would just take my kids and get out. Well, did you see the email I sent you the other day, Megan? There was a couple who tried to flee just this week. What happened?
And now they've been arrested for kidnapping.
Yes, they went and took their baby in the middle of the night from a foster home, and they got caught at a border. So you're not going to, unless you have a private pilot and your newborn's passport information, you have to have a whole plan, guys. This is not something.
It's not something you can do. You can't, even if you make it out of your state, they're going to send the feds after you. You will be chased by the FBI, like Cynthia Absug was, and she didn't even have her son. She was freely traveling about the country. She was traveling with crazy people. It's a whole story, who basically enticed her into a crazy scheme. But she was not going after her son. She didn't even have her son with her, and the FBI chased her down and arrested her at gunpoint. So there's no escaping these people. When they come in your life, that's it. You're done.
Yeah. And I know people are, we've been doing this. You Are the Power got involved, I think, in November of last year, right? So it's not been quite a year of You Are the Power being involved. I'm sure a lot of members, people who watch, I'm sure these families wish so bad we've gotten further than what we have. But I want people to understand that all we're doing, and when I say we, I'm talking about Ryan, Spike, all the people even behind the scenes that people don't even know about that work on the social media pages. We're just normal people. We're literally just husbands, wives, mothers, fathers. I mean, I got to cook dinner and take my kid to wrestling class today. Like, we're just normal people. All we can do is get this information out there. And I really do firmly believe the people in Georgia, for sure, we're doing everything we can. I talk to these families, most of them weekly. at least Matt and Taki daily, Carrie Timms daily. These are people I talk to and I check on and I love. We're doing as much as we can. You're fighting the most evil you can even begin to imagine. The government, everyone knows the government is corrupt, right? You're literally fighting actual individual bad actors in these courtrooms, in these email campaigns. I wish so bad I wish all the families were reunited, but there's nothing else we can do to make this happen. We can only put this out there. We can raise money and have fundraisers. I wish money wasn't the answer to some of this for the Hernandez family right now, even for the Timms family. It is. Money is what is needed, because
what they need is a team of sharks. They need a team of lawyers.
I do think we have good lawyers right now.
Will be aggressive.
Yeah, I do feel like, I know also people are confused, like, well, if they go to trial, there's no way they're going to lose, right? Because they're innocent. I would have said that before going to the Alexander's
Cynthia
trial.
Absug was innocent.
Right.
They had no evidence. They just made it up.
You don't understand what they do. They lie to the jury. They lie. Play a game.
And she had a public defender who I think was in cahoots with the state. He didn't defend her. He didn't put on her expert. He never even flew in her experts. He didn't even ask the doctors any questions who treated her son, who knew her personally. So yeah, absolutely innocent people can be railroaded if the state wants them. We've watched corrupt prosecutors on this very channel. Look at the Karen Reed case. Absolutely absurd. There is zero evidence that Karen Reed killed her boyfriend. None. There's a whole bunch of weird evidence that shows that those cops were involved in something weird that night, but nobody wants to talk about that. And the prosecutors are caught, the lead investigators caught doing all sorts of crap, but it doesn't matter. If the prosecution wants you in jail, you're probably going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the judges in the juvenile system are a huge problem, because they can just literally side with whatever they want, you guys. Emma had a diagnosis, so I'm sure some people would like some kind of medical update, right? So what was the very first thing I had said to DFAX when I sent that email a year ago?
I remember you said, she looks like a baby I knew that had osteogenesis imperfecta. I believe that's what it said. And you were like, I think you should really look into this and get her tested for this, because I think that's what it is, including the bluish of the whites of her eyes were bluish. Yes. Her head was a little bit misshapen. Yes. And you had seen this before.
Constipation. So she had digestive issues, and we only had her for a week. So these were just little things that we could see. Well, I can tell everybody back in October at the adjudication hearing, they had expert witnesses say, listen, she had a vitamin D deficiency. Her number was 15. Now, the DFAX attorney claimed that she made some dramatic, everyone's thinking that's so low. It's not that low. Yes, it is low. I mean, the standard at CHOA is now 30. They want it to be 30. My doctor wants mine to be 100. So you want high vitamin D levels. Emma's was 15. For a newborn, that is enough to make your bones soft. So a lot of people will say, well, when she got removed, did she have any more fractures? Well, for one, she never had any more scans done. So we don't know. When the daycare said
they put her on vitamin D.
Yes. Yes.
The hospital that said she didn't have any underlying conditions put her on vitamin D.
On a high dose of vitamin D.
So she heals because she gets the vitamin D, and her bones toughen up. She doesn't have any more fractures. And they say, see, we took her away from her parents and she quit having fractures.
Yes, that's the thing. So if you have rickets, if a baby has rickets, they usually grow out of it by 9 or 10 months anyway, especially when you're put on high doses of vitamin D. Now, the whole skull thing, the uncle had taken her based off of a referral from another doctor to look at Emma's head shape. So here's the sad part for me. She went to this appointment. They wanted her fitted for a helmet, you guys, because of the head shape. But when Emma went, she's too old. You have to finish the process by the time they're 18 months. At this time, she was 16 and a half.
So that's medical negligence.
For me, 100%. 100%.
Well, it is. That's damages because her skull will never be the right shape because they didn't seek the hospital, and DFACS never sought the correct treatment for her when she was the right age. And whose custody was she in?
Right.
DFACS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
States.
And so they ignored that, right? So that's one thing that's come up. And they didn't say it was horrible. They said, we wish we could helmet her. That would have helped back 4 and 5 months old when people were first telling the state to do this. That would have helped. So that was unfortunate. The discoloration, the whole reason this baby was removed and Aria was removed from the aunt and uncle were because of the bruises that came up on Emma 5 weeks into the aunt and uncle having her. DFACS told them to go back to CHOA. DFACS case manager, Mackenzie McCrae, made a comment. I wonder if they let the mom over and abuse Emma. That was said, and then they ran with that. Nothing ever came of that. There was no investigation done to the aunt and uncle. Nothing ever came
and
of
Tony had security footage.
Yes, he offered the security
He could have
footage.
proved it. He could have proved it.
Tony
she was
is
never
a
there.
rule follower, folks. For those who don't know Tony, he's a rule follower. They were never going to allow this mom and dad to come over and see their kids. I assure you.
No,
they
because
were not.
he was terrified of exactly what was going to what happened.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I talked to Tony. I saw the footage.
Yeah.
I saw the security footage. They were never there.
They never came.
But it didn't matter. They didn't do any investigation. They just say these things and then they just run with it. And there
But
it is. That's the
that
truth.
kept happening in foster homes. Emma kept getting from the daycare you mentioned, right?
Right. The daycare said reported it.
They said they reported on stand during a juvenile hearing. That daycare worker, Emma and Aria went there from July to December. She said every single day Emma threw up. And she had discoloration marks on her body weekly. And she reported that to DFACS. And in the middle of court, DFACS is like, no one ever told us.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, when you know the daycare worker reported it. So when the state, even last week in criminal during the bond condition hearing, she literally said, look, once these kids came into foster care, when they were removed from the aunt and uncle, all the injuries stopped. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
No, they
did
didn't. These
not.
bruise-like markings, which Megan,
there's
this is
testimony on the stand that
Yeah.
she still had the markings in the daycare. God, I want to strangle someone.
And this is something that viewers will find very interesting. So when Emma was still under DFACS control, one of the fictive kin homes that had the girls went to a cardiologist appointment because her hands and feet kept getting blue and purple marks all over them, right? So instead of the foster home being interrogated, which they shouldn't have, I'm glad they weren't, but instead of them being looked at as abusing Emma, DFACS said, oh, well, let's go take her to the cardiologist. Well, she was diagnosed at that time with acrocyanosis. But guess what we found out? Emma was diagnosed, Megan, at birth with acrocyanosis, and no one ever told the parents.
By who?
By the day she was born, by the doctor, the day Emma was born.
What is acrocyanosis? What is that?
It's a medical condition. It's not dangerous. There's like a primary and a secondary. Secondary can be a little bit more dangerous, and it can be associated with genetics, different illnesses, cancers even.
Ooh.
Most newborns, if you notice their arm, their hands, wrists, and feet, when they're cold, they turn blue or purple. So it's really, that's acrocyanosis. It's just a discoloring. Your vessels are kind of constricted.
The vessels are more noticeable.
Warm up and it goes away. So it's not considered to be dangerous. However, on her birth records, by acrocyanosis, it also said bruises. And it said bruises above, I think, the eye and maybe the lip.
So she was born with bruising.
She was born with marks. Now, Matt and Taki don't have any recollection of this, but if you guys can remember back to when you had your babies,
you don't have much recollection of anything. It's
you see
traumatic.
all these little marks. I mean, there were red little
you don't know what
blobs.
you're looking at. You do not know what you're looking at. It's kind
they're
of
perfect to you. You don't care about anything.
But it's kind of traumatizing because they're purple. They come out blue and purple, like it's scary and like covered in gunk, and then you don't know what you're looking at.
It takes a good week before you give that baby a bath and you see the real baby. Now we put mittens on
don't
baby's
get started
hands.
on umbilical cord nonsense.
Yes.
I mean that whole
the
thing
whole
is like, oh.
So you're kind of in a daze, right? So Matt and Taki don't remember seeing bruises.
Of course not.
but it's charted on her records above her eye. Now, they even told the doctor this when this first happened. Like, sometimes she gets really weird marks. It'll be above the eye. It'll be on her face. They put mittens on her little hands. Maybe she's
Right.
scratching herself.
So, right, that happens all the time. Those little baby nails.
Yes.
Oh,
And
they
when
can
they
get
tell
slashed.
the doctor these things, instead of doctors listening and then looking at birth records, right? Like they could have done discharge paperwork. Instead, it's, well, they keep changing their story. And this baby's had bruises.
God.
They've had her bruises her whole life. They've just been hiding it from us. That's what they do.
Terrible.
They twist it and turn it on you.
This is terrible. I'm so disappointed. You guys have worked so hard, and I want you to have such a big win. I want a win for you so bad.
I know that there's going to be wins, even for those that are sitting in jail wrongfully right now. We're still supporting those families. We're still trying to make changes. It's just a long, hard battle. It's not as easy as just like, that's what you would think, because when there's no evidence, it's hard to imagine how can you not just go into a courtroom and get what you want. If you've never seen it, you can't explain the lies and how easy it is for them to just say whatever the frig they want. And then you need attorneys to speak up. Sometimes they do, right? Sometimes they do a good job. Sometimes you're like, why didn't the attorney just like clear that up? Why did the attorney not fix that, what the prosecutor just said?
The state has unlimited resources, right? And we go back to if the defense hires an expert, then the state hires 3 to combat it.
Oh God, this is such a problem. I have said this from the time I witnessed Cindy's case. The state has an unlimited bag of money with which to prosecute you. Yeah. It is unfair, and it should be easy to solve this. No problem at all. You put a cap on whatever your budget is, because everybody's different. That's the budget for the state too, period. It's not fair.
Yeah, we saw it in the Sullivan case recently down in South Georgia, where the defense put up, let's say, 3 expert witnesses. The state put up 7, right? Oh my God. So, and this just tells you how bad that they're fighting to hide their mistakes, right? They're fighting that hard. They're spending that much taxpayer money to cover up their mistakes that they're willing to hire out 7+ experts to combat the defense team's 2 or 3.
You know why they do that, though? $260 million. That's why.
Correct. They're absolutely scared to death.
They're terrified of the Maya Kowalski case and what happened there. They're terrified that if they ever get in front of a jury with decent lawyers, with great lawyers like Greg Anderson and Nick Whitney, they're screwed. Yeah. And the whole damn thing will come crumbling down at some point, because if J Hatch has to pay $200 million, let's say they get $60 million knocked off. If they have to pay $200, it's still a huge, huge win for parents and parents' rights. And that's one thing that they have been fighting. These hospitals, these children's hospitals, DFACs, they don't want parents to have rights.
No, they don't. Yeah. They absolutely don't.
Very much true. They want to be in charge of everything.
So Ryan, what do you think? What are the next steps for the Hernandez family? Do we have dates in mind? Or what's coming up? How can we support them as they go through these things? Is there an address that the audience maybe can send them letters of support? Even if it's just to say, I know about your story. I'm praying for you. We are trying to help get the word out. What's next?
Yeah. So what I'll do, Megan, is I give you permission, to share my email address and my contact information with all your listeners.
Right. Great.
So you absolutely can do that. So we're anticipating either later this year or early next year that the Hernandez family will go before a judge and a jury on the criminal proceedings. And so we would love to send you those updates so you can get that word out to your members about when we anticipate that happening and when a date is set. And then if your members want to send emails, or I can send you, Jenny and I can send you maybe a point of contact where we can get those letters and words of encouragement sent to Matt and Tucky. The most important thing that we can do right now is continue to have your listeners and your audience members to send emails on behalf of Matt and Tucky to Governor Kemp. There's an email template on the landing page for Matt and Tucky on our website, which is youarethepower.net. you can go to our causes and then click on the Hernandez, and there's an email template that we ask that your members please send an email to Governor Kemp. In the meantime, and the sad reality is Matt and Tucky need as much financial support as they can get. As they're staring down trial, as they're staring down having to hire these expert witnesses, in reality, they're looking at probably another $15,000 to $30,000 to get these expert witnesses secured for their defense. And so, really and truly,
So they still don't have experts lined up as of now?
they do have some lined up. And so the ones that we're really hoping that we can get on behalf of Matt and Tucky and help facilitate are the ones that are going to be so expensive.
Oh, God. We need people like Dr. Joe Corcoran willing to do it for free. You know, he testified for Maya Kowalski for free. And I that was so devastating to the state also. I mean, to the defense, because they weren't counting on that, you know, and they had so many experts who actually stepped up and did it for free in that case. I don't know if it was because they had the Netflix, PR move with the Netflix documentary or what. But, you know, Dr. Joe Corcoran, who did testify, I remember there was a moment when he was on the stand testifying that I said on a live stream, I said, this was the moment this man realized he's never going to work in this field again. Like you're going to pay a price. You're going to pay a price for this. So it has to be a very special person. These people who are going to testify against these major conglomerates that are set up as powerhouses against the people they're supposed to serve.
It shouldn't be that way, though.
Of course not.
If everybody just stood up and did the right thing at the same time and said, no, we're not going to be afraid. No, we're not going to be scared. We're going to step up and do the right thing. Then it wouldn't be so confusing, you know, if you had more people doing the right thing, or doctors.
I know. Dr. Corcoran is like an amazing man. He is. I know he's faced some personal retaliation, some professional retaliation after what he did after testifying in the Maya Kowalski trial. And you know, it's been. I need to do a catch up with him actually and catch him up on this case. I know he and I have talked about it. He's had people on his YouTube channel about these cases in Georgia too. We just need more people like that in the medical industry who are willing to say this is enough already. People like Dr. Newberger, people like Dr. Corcoran, who really do care about real diagnoses, about getting to the actual root of the problem instead of just passing it off. So I need to get him back on here soon if he can. I know he's been under some stress with some of the retaliation, so I'm not sure what he's doing now publicly, but I need to have a conversation with him. Maybe I can try and get some more recommendations. I don't know. This whole thing is so upsetting to me. I really felt like the Maya Kowalski case was going to send shockwaves through the system, and they were going to be more careful because of it, that they were going to be minding their P's and Q's, crossing their T's, dotting their I's, not jumping to conclusions after seeing that $260 million reward. But it doesn't seem like that. It seems like what they're doing is doubling down. They've taken more children. They're doing it more. They're hiring more child abuse pediatricians. We've got the one that you guys, I don't remember if it's the Tims or the other family that you have who's dealing with the one child abuse doctor who keeps moving state to state to state.
Dr.
Barbara Knox,
yeah,
who's in Florida now, and she's been kicked out of Alaska, kicked out of Wisconsin, sued all over the place, but now she's operating in Florida. Yeah. It's like, what does it take to get these people removed from their positions?
Right. That's some of the problem. That's what we need these representatives and lawmakers to listen. We're not saying stop looking for abused children at hospitals. Nobody's claiming that, but these all they see is nails. What is happening is not working. And it's time for them to realize that it is not working. We need reform. We need regular doctors. What's wrong with the other doctors and nurses being mandated reporters, using their brain and using a real investigation, Megan? None of these families have had a real investigation. How are they going through criminal court? It's just mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. And I feel like this prosecutor are there two families underneath the same prosecutor? The Hernandez's prosecutor is also prosecuting another family?
No, I don't think so. Now,
they have previously, but not one of the families that we're supporting. There was a family that we know of that came through that prosecutor's office prior to that they were prosecuted under the same circumstances, but not a family that we're publicly supporting.
Well, Rogue Mama, my senior mod here just gave me a really good idea. We had been reading through on my channel dramatic readings of the juvenile court transcripts in the Maya Kowalski case, and we're not finished with them. And I have at least another 1 or 2 episodes to do. And she just came up with the idea of having a fundraiser for the Hernandezes during that stream, because those streams are very popular. And I think that we will do that. We will do a push for the Give, Send, Go when we schedule that next dramatic reading for the Maya Kowalski juvenile hearing. That's a terrific idea, because this is, I'm sorry to say it, they do need money, they need it fast, and they need a lot of it. And this is going to be a community effort.
I wish that wasn't the case, but unfortunately, and prayer, right? I'm a Christian. I believe in prayers, but to be quite honest, even prayers aren't. It's not going to make this work. It can help. It can definitely help, but you can't buy bread with prayers. You can't pay the mortgage with prayers. So you can pray for the family and ask for the DA and everyone involved to just stop. But money, unfortunately, is very useful in this situation. I emailed you a P.O. box number. If you wanted to share that with viewers, they're welcome to send the Hernandez family, Tim's family, Sullivan family, White and Clark family, any of the families that You Are the Power supports. People are welcome to go to that landing page. And
should they put your name on it or the Hernandez family name on it?
Either one. Either is fine. It's just my husband and I who check it. So either whatever they want.
I will let me put that in the chat right now. Send encouragement here. All right.
That's a really thoughtful idea.
There you go. There is.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeannie. Do you want to talk about the T-shirt you're wearing?
Oh yes, if I can get into view here.
Let me embiggen.
So this is a shirt that Taki made. Aria created this drawing.
Oh, how sweet!
And it's really, really sweet. It's got her mommy, her daddy. It's got herself. It's got Emma, and then it's got her aunt and uncle. So Pa Took and Lung Tony, that's her aunt and uncle, in Thai. And they're selling these shirts. If anybody wants to order, you can actually go to Taki's Facebook page. That's the easiest way I know to do it, and see where she constantly posts about that, and people can order them straight from her. They're really good quality. They're super nice, actually. They're really, really comfortable, really good quality. And it's special because Aria did this drawing. And you guys, it took her weeks before she added herself to the picture, which is really horrible. Oh. She drew the whole family, and she would do it at every visit. And they would ask, like, where are you? And I explained to Taki, like, I know this is hard to hear, but she can't see herself in this family right now. And that is heartbreaking for a baby, a 4-year-old.
This is horrible. Horrible.
She knows the family, but she doesn't see herself in there. And it's changed. I think she does view herself. Jonathan and I and our kids have spent time with them since all of this. We've been able to have pool parties, them come over to our house. They've gone to church with us. So we've been able to spend more time with Emma and Aria, and they're doing fabulous. They're doing really well. But they want their family together. They want to go home. So Aria, thankfully, is in a much better place emotionally. And I'm forever grateful that they're out of foster care.
Well, we are going to do what we can to try and raise some funds for Matt and Taki. Again, at the top of the chat, I have pinned the Give, Send, Go. If you have anything to donate, I know that it is a difficult time for everybody right now, and there's hurricane damage, and there's so many things going on in this world. But if you can send, there's 600 of you here. If you can each send $5, that's a huge, huge deal. And they need some serious legal help. And this is one of those times when great lawyers are worth every damn penny, because they will save your life.
If anyone finds themselves in this position, I would say find one. Honestly, that starts at over $100,000. Like, If they're 100, there's one great one I would have loved for the Hernandez family, but they're $175,000. That's what
Just,
you
and I'm
need
sure
to-
that's just the retainer. It's going to
Yes,
get bigger
that's
than
not
that.
trial. That's
That's not trial.
pre-indictment, you know? So unfortunately, you guys, that's where we're at in this life. Like, that's what it takes, money to get your kids back. That's what it takes.
All right, I've got a couple of super chats here, and then we will let you go. I don't want to keep you all day, but there might be some questions here to answer. Marcus King, thanks for the 20. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. You're welcome, Marcus. And I want to keep it under a spotlight here. And I know that my audience, these shows get the smallest turnout because it's really hard for people to hear. And I think that people are dealing with a lot of their own stuff, and it's very difficult to hear about the government abusing others, especially children. And I get that, but please try to share this on social media with people to bring attention to it, because we need to open our eyes to it, unfortunately. Rogue Mama, thanks for the 2. Let's get Megan a medium wage. Thank you very much, Rogue Mama. Appreciate that. Photo Lady 12, thanks for the 5. I heard about this case, but didn't know details. This is horrific. Thank you for covering this. You're welcome. And Janice L. Holland became a YouTube member. Welcome to the Fox Den. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Stay tuned for the weird noise. Okay, that's what a fox sounds like, in case you were wondering. King Bob, thanks for the 2. Thanks, Megan, for all you do in these cases. Well, I feel like I don't do much. I try to bring attention to it, but people like Ryan and Jennifer are really working hard every day on the ground, and they're in the trenches. And I really want you guys to go to youarethepower.com, and I want you to sign up and become a member there. And I want you to get updates, and I want you to volunteer in your state, because there's a need for state leaders and chapters in every state to work with You Are the Power. And they are one of the only organizations I have ever found, ever in 20 years of doing this, the only organization I have found who is really organized and doing great work. And I support them 100%. And I want you guys to support them too. Become a member, at least sign up for their email list for sure, so you know what's going on and you can keep updated. Kim Bevan, thanks for the 2. I've donated, but what else can I do from the UK? You can write letters from the UK. It is actually really effective for people in the other countries to write to these prosecutors, to write to the governor and say, I am watching you from another country. I am embarrassed and ashamed of America when I see this. I thought America was a beacon of freedom. I thought America was a shining light on the hill. And what I see is darkness and evil. I'm writing you from the UK to tell you how ashamed I am. That you are treating a family like this. You should be ashamed of yourselves. The world is watching. It is helpful for them to know that there are thousands, tens of thousands of people out there from all over the world watching this. They get nervous. They get nervous when that happens. And by the way, don't be afraid to send an actual paper letter with a stamp through snail mail. They have to open those. And to have paper cluttering their desks full of letters with international stamps on them, damn, it's effective. It's effective. Okay. Emails are great, but letters are better.
We just went live this morning with the Sullivan family, a new campaign to the DA. So that would be awesome. Everybody can email Keith Higgins right now before the day is over. That's extremely helpful.
Yep.
You know what? We'll go over that before you leave here. I want that information. Why don't you? We'll do that as soon as I get through these. We're almost done. Thanks for the 10. Solve this sort of thing. Screw Kamala. Megan for president. I wouldn't want that job. You couldn't force me to do it. Nope. Brandy the baker. Why can't they just listen and try to understand what's going on? They do this to good parents and also don't listen when people call out bad parents. That's right. We're going through a similar situation on another story that I'm covering on this channel, where a child has been witnessed on police video cam and Fish and Game wildlife cam, living in squalid conditions with people who scream at her. She's adopted. She's got in Florida, living in a shed, no air conditioning, no indoor plumbing, no nails all over the property, glass all over the property, dangerous situation, meth heads on the property, a guy with a gun on the property who's allegedly drinking all the time. And DCF will not do anything. Goes out there 26 times, walks away. And so when we see these cases and we're like, we know this family is stable. We know this children is not being kept in a shed. So why the hell? And then there is a child being kept in a shed and nobody does anything. So believe me, I get your frustration. I feel you. And I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did. Tennille Brown, did they get the genetic testing completed? She wanted to know this, and I marked it because I know there was something about that.
Yes. So they've gotten genetic results back for both parents and for Emma. I don't want to tell what that is. I promise I'm not trying to be vague. It's just some information is not for me to give because
Sure.
they want to use this in criminal trials. But yes, they did get and have good geneticists working with the families.
Wonderful. That's good to know. All right. So tell me about the Sullivan push. For the Sullivan family is another family we have highlighted on the show. You can see it in the playlist for the Hernandezes. I probably should change the playlist to be like, I don't know, Georgia, Florida medical kidnappings, because we also talk about other families. But a quick rundown on the Sullivans and where we're at there.
Yeah. So the Sullivan family went back to juvenile court, and the judge ordered reunification, which is an absolute blessing. So the only thing that the Sullivan family now has hanging over their head is, unfortunately, Corey was indicted. And so he still faces felony criminal charges, similar charges to what Matt and Tucky are facing. And what we've done this morning is we've gone live on our website. So if you go to youarethepower.net/Sullivan, it'll get you to their landing page. If you scroll down to about halfway down the page, and there's going to be a subheading that says email DA Keith Higgins or something to that effect. And so
Here it is right here.
And if you enlarge that, Megan, there's the new email template that we have set up for anyone to email DA Higgins on behalf of Corey and respectfully ask him to drop the charges against Corey Sullivan. Again, Corey is factually innocent. No crime occurred. The state wasn't, and the state, even with the burden of proof in juvenile court, wasn't able to show abuse on behalf of Corey or Diana. So the judge sided with Corey and Diana and ordered reunification. So we're confident that the charges against Corey will either A, be dismissed, or B, if he ends up going to court, will be found not guilty. But that right there is an excellent email template that the rest of the leadership team here in Georgia at You Are the Power wrote on behalf of Corey. And we're just asking everyone if they could send those emails out starting today. That would be fantastic.
Please do that. Take the time to do that today. And if you could also send an actual letter to their office, I would encourage you to do that, to send a snail mail letter as well. Send emails and send a snail mail letter. You can find District Attorney Keith Higgins' address online very easily. Just look it up and send it. You know, we did this, we did a push to do that for the Laura Owens case to encourage the prosecutor there to file charges against her for the false allegations she made. We can do it for this innocent family. We should do it for the Hernandez family, and we should do it for the Sullivan family and all the other families that You Are the Power is working on. I have had in-depth conversations with Spike Cohen, a man who I admire and respect greatly. I know that Spike has done his homework. I trust it completely. I know that these cases are garbage, all of them, and they need to know that we are watching. And I have so much respect for what you guys have done. I have wanted an organization like you to be around, and I feel like it's finally happening, and I'm so excited, and I'm just excited by that. And I want you to know I'm here to help you however I can. I want to be able to, you know, if you need me for anything, if you need to get some information out, if you need to do an update, you need to go live, I'm at your disposal. If there's anything I can do to help these families, I'm here to do it for you. And I know that a big portion of my audience wants to help as well, because this is an injustice that should not be going on. It's enough already. These people are way over the top. The government is coming down way too hard on these families. And there is an in-between. There is an in-between besides the jackbooted, thug government stepping on your neck and then not doing anything about abuse. There is something in the middle, and we need to find that. We need to find that and work together. We need to stop this. This parents against hospitals, parents against the government against children. It's terrible. It's crazy. The government is supposed to be we are the boss. We are the boss of the government. We pay their salaries. We afford them the ability to do what they do. And when they don't do what they're supposed to do, they should face a consequence. So whatever, and that consequence needs to be, we lost Ryan for a minute. That consequence needs to be, he'll be back if he got kicked out, I'm sure. or if he has to go, that's okay. The consequence needs to be that they hear it from us publicly, whether it's going to town hall meetings, whether it's the government kicked you out, Ryan.
I think I saw that.
It's probably the NSA.
It is
the only government agency that listens to us.
That's true.
But
Megan,
I think the consequence needs to be this constant public attention and criticism when they do things that are wrong.
Yes. And honestly, like coming on this show, I feel it every time that I've come on here. I feel talking with you. I feel thankful because you have so many viewers here that do care, genuinely are interested, are willing to send these. So I cannot thank you enough. It means so much to me. I know it means something to these families, to Ryan. Thank you. You say you're not doing a lot. You do a lot because I bother you via email. I send you updates as I can. Just because I want you in the know, and you've been instrumental, in my opinion, to get this out. It's a huge deal just to let people know this is happening. So I'm so grateful to you and these viewers.
Yes, thank you. I can't say thank you enough, Megan.
Anything. And you guys can reach out to me at any time. Jennifer, I know you've been like, I don't want to bother you. Like, bother me anytime. I'm always.
I only want to bother the government officials. That's who I want.
I never sleep. Text me anytime. You have my number. Call me anytime. I want to know what's going on. I want to update my viewers, and they want to know too. And we don't want this to go into the dark. We want to.
That's why we fight, right? You asked earlier, like, why haven't you given up? I would love to. Several times I've actually said I could delete everyone's number from my phone and I could just like stop. But I look at my babies, my children that are with me. I'm going to be a grandma, Megan, in January. Our oldest daughter and her husband are expecting. I need that baby protected. Yeah. I need my kids protected. You have children. People, you can't just say, well, it's not happening to me. People better watch out. This is happening.
It can happen to you at any moment.
And all the time. So pay attention and be vigilant.
Ryan, I know that I connected you with some of the people in Pennsylvania who are going through this hideousness with the child abuse pediatrician there who's accused over 80 families of child abuse falsely. Is there anything going on in those cases that you're aware of? Have you heard anything about that? I don't know if you're working with them or not.
We're following that work. I've not been intimately involved, but we're following it closely because we do believe it's going to impact what's going on here in Georgia, just like what was happening in Texas is impacting, with their second opinion law is impacting what we're doing here in Georgia. So it's definitely something that's been on our radar, and I appreciate you.
They filed a huge lawsuit. Did you read it yet?
I've not read it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, I have it, and I've been meaning to get to it and read it for my audience because I'm sure it's fabulous. So I need to pull that up. It's in my inbox somewhere, but I need to read that because there is a giant lawsuit about that right now in Pennsylvania, and that's another one where a doctor went from state to state, New York, Florida, now Pennsylvania, and is doing this again.
Is it Jensen?
Jensen. Yeah, it's Deborah Asario Jensen. There are only about 300 child abuse pediatricians in this whole country.
Right.
And so far, all the same ones keep coming up. So maybe they're not all terrible, but we have heard about a lot of them who keep on doing the same things just in different states. It's like they're serial killers. They just move from state to state and they somehow teaching new
horrible people to do the same thing they're doing. And you already touched on the training, how little training
it's very little
people have. 8 hours a year for some of them, you guys.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's crazy.
It is not a specialty by any standard in the medical field. It is a real joke. And I personally think it is attracting the worst candidates because it's so little work. It's almost like the CLE training that they give guardians ad litem. Mm-hmm. It's like 8 hours on a Tuesday, and then suddenly they are in charge of what's best for children.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but that's not good qualifications. I want my specialist to have had years of training before they are considered a specialist. 8 hours of training does not make you a specialist in anything.
No. And I'll tell you this, Megan, for your audience sake too. We're vetting a cause in Virginia and we're vetting a cause right now in Tennessee, both coming from children's hospitals, both coming from child abuse pediatricians. Again, you could take the name Hernandez out of it. You could insert the family's name in Virginia. You could insert the family's name from Tennessee that we're looking at. And the circumstances are all the same. You have a misdiagnosis by a child abuse pediatrician at a children's hospital. Government officials are doubling down. Law enforcement did not do their due diligence. Child Protective Services did not do their due diligence. And these families they've had their children seized and now they're being prosecuted. So it's not just isolated to Georgia, but the more that we draw awareness to this, more families are reaching out for our help. And of course, we're doing our best to help them. But I just wanted to let you know and your audience know that you're going to see very soon, likely a cause in Virginia pop up that we're going to support it, and another cause in Tennessee.
Well, please let me know when those go public, because I will help you get that out there. I'm very disappointed to hear that there are new cases. That breaks my heart. And you guys, You Are the Power really could use your help. They could use your volunteer help. If you are able to volunteer to help them, I'm sure there are things you can do from your home. I'm sure there are things you can do online to help. And so please go to the website, youarethepower.net, and sign up there. Get on the email list, get in contact with your local representative there, see what you can do to help. After this stream, I'm going to shut it down in the next couple minutes. I am going to go live on Locals right after this, because I'm going to start writing my letters to these for each of these families that are dealing with this right now. And if you want to join me over there, we're going to write letters together and get it done today, because I can't deal with this anymore. I just can't. So you head over to meganfox.locals.com. If you're not a member over there, make sure you sign up. I will make today's broadcast a free broadcast. If anybody wants to go over there and join me on Locals, that way you'll get an idea of what Locals is like, so you can learn how to use it, and then maybe you will subscribe. meganfox.locals.com. I will be going live right after this. I'll set up a new live stream, and I'm going to write letters. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you what mine look like, and hopefully you can do it along with me. Please do follow me over there. I would appreciate and love to see each and every one of you. Jennifer, Ryan, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
And I'll be on the lookout for the fundraiser of the reading. That's a fantastic idea.
Yep.
And
yes.
I want to make sure I'm part of that.
Yeah, and I'll keep you updated on that to make sure that we have it, so you can advertise it and get everybody there, because it's going to be a good time. We're exposing what happened in the Maya Kowalski juvenile hearing, and at the same time helping somebody stuck in the same situation, I think is a great idea. So that is what we're going to do. All right. Anything else, last words you want to say before we call it quits?
No, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the viewers.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Megan.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. All right, everybody, head over to meganfox.locals.com. I will be going live in just a few minutes, and we will get over, and what we will be doing is writing our letters today to help the Hernandez family and also the Sullivans and whoever else is on that list. I'm just going to take a quick break, and then I will be back. meganfox.locals.com. Now, I see, oh, this is interesting. A lot of things says Megan refuses to acknowledge HG's doctor's official letter stating her mom is taking very good care of her. Yes, I did see that. I didn't see, but I have no way of verifying if that is actually an official letter. I've seen other documents in other cases that looked like official documents and then turned out not to be official documents. And frankly, I don't know if that's a real document. So I don't report things that I can't verify. So if you have an actual verified something with a doctor's name on it, which there's no doctor's name on the one I saw, perhaps, but I'm going to need some verification on that. It's not that I'm refusing to acknowledge that something is out there that exists that says that, but I don't know. General T, did I see your earlier comment? I don't think so. I wasn't paying that close attention to the chat because when I have guests here, it's a little hard to do that. So I am going to see you guys over on Locals. Make sure that you follow me over there, meganfox.locals.com, and I'll see you over there. All right, guys, take care.
I was lost, my world is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. My friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye. I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna stay. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. No, I don't wanna say goodbye. This time I know my road is near its end. I almost felt my head is full of a million choices. I am alive, I'm not here to pretend. I love my friends, my heart is filled with a million voices. Oh, this road has many choices. In my heart, million voices. Come next to me, my friend, embrace the sky. I'm not afraid to fly. It's not the time to say goodbye.